Greetings and welcome back to another supporters stream. And let me go ahead and run everything over here. And let me unmute the supporters. How's everybody doing today?
Doing well.
Unmuted.
We are doing.
You're unmuted now. Well, you're unmuted now on my end anyway. I
feel unmuted because my voice don't count anymore in the world.
Oh, I see what you mean. I gotta adjust my lighting. Hold on a second. I had to turn my lighting down a little bit, and it ended up being a little bit too light. And I usually have my light controls in easier to access locations, but right now I'm experimenting with a new thing, so I don't have to keep doing this to switch screens. Because that's annoying.
Sorry about that.
That's a little bit better. All right, there we are. Here. Now I look like I'm actually not in the dark anymore. I went with a nice purple background today. Hope that's pleasing to the eye back
Pretty
there.
sweet.
And,
I like it.
But anyway, today we want to talk about Foss software and censorship, and we're actually going to continue this on the Christian channel tonight. And we're going to apply it specifically to the Christian faith. If you're interested in such things, join me over on that stream. I'll put a link in it at the end of the stream. The channel is called Our Walk in Christ. So we're going to talk about this. But today on this stream, we're going to be talking specifically about just the software itself, the social aspects, and things like that. So anyway, how's everybody doing this week? How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing okay.
Doing okay. All right. All things considering, right? With the world burning and stuff.
Yeah.
We're about to. Yates Networks, how's it going?
Doing well.
Very good.
Very well. January's been great.
Oh, yeah. It's been a blast.
Is that sarcasm I detect?
Of course.
I'm sorry.
How's it going, Tech? Oh, you're muted then.
It is going well. There's been no major international incidents, although there's a few domestic incidents that I'm sure we'll touch on briefly.
We're going to try not to be overtly political, but at the same time, sometimes at this point in time, it's going to be hard to avoid. I need to move my picture in the background. Like, this layout is perfect for controlling everything, but I'm now in the way of my picture back there, which is Bill Gates, George Soros, and Rothschild chilling out together. And so I think I'm going to have to move that over right above my salt lamp there. And for the person that was like, salt lamps could cause problems with cats. No, my cats actually don't jump up on stuff. They know what they're allowed on and what they're not allowed on. So my cat's going over and licking the salt block is not likely to happen. So, and if he does, hey, he says I'm provocative. I don't care. But, anyway.
I don't know. That cat's pretty smart. You don't know what he's doing when you're away.
Well, I mean, to be sure, yeah, I know that they do like to jump up on things they're not allowed to, but they know they're not allowed to, so they almost never do. You know, I'll have evidence that they might jump up on the table every once in a blue moon, but it's not something they typically do. So, you know, I'm not likely to go downstairs, and my house is not one where, like, I can go and cook myself a big old steak and leave it sitting on the coffee table and go in the other room for about 5 minutes to go finish something else up. The cat won't go near it. A cat will only go near my steak if I set it on the floor for the cat. They're very well trained, actually.
Do they like steak?
Well, one of them really does. The other one doesn't even eat bacon. I don't know. I have no idea what's wrong with CJ. He doesn't even like bacon. It's like, what is wrong with you, cat?
He's not an American cat. Get him out of here. Send him back whatever country he came from.
I think he's an Arab cat. I'm pretty sure he's a Muslim because he won't go near bacon. He just won't touch the bacon, man.
And the string is banned.
Jeffrey Wolfsher's in the comments. Grading standards. The future is not written. The things that make you go, only come to mind 15 years after the fact. That is true. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs put forth a future spoken of thereof today. A 5-inch screen is horrible editing videos, yet 20-foot screen is the wrong time to find out it's also a camera. Yes. Oh boy. Greetings, Moonbase Alpha Grays. How's it going there? Use a shell other than bash. I just use bash. I don't really care. Will this be on the exam? Chickens will be on the exam. Yes, indeed. Let's see. I've heard some ZHS using, others using fish. The alien has a tinfoil hat. Yes, he does. I actually have, for the times I talk about education, I actually have a tinfoil academic hat for him as well. So I have a square card graduation cap for him, also in tinfoil. But yes, the alien does indeed wear a tinfoil hat while he's on Earth. It's like us wearing masks in our society, while he's on Earth,
I watched the tinfoil episode. That was pretty cool. I liked it.
Yeah, we will not have one this week. Hopefully next week. I have like 3 or 4 other tinfoil episodes in the works.
Yeah, they look like a lot of work to make.
Yeah, this week I probably won't have a video on Saturday. I'm not going to rush myself to do one, and we'll be back on Monday though, and maybe another top 5 Linux or something. Big piece of the Foss community are extremist lefties. Beware of updates. Yeah, beware of updates. Well, that's like, the latest Adobe Acrobat update, or the Adobe Flash update, I'm sorry, is a kill switch, which is, okay. I mean, that thing's the buggiest thing in the world. Do we drop Amazon now?
I won't miss it.
Yeah. Do we drop Amazon now? There's a good question. Right now, it's like hard to find products you need that's not Amazon.
Yeah, where I live, there's very few choices, and Amazon's like the come through with, the goods if you can't find them locally.
Yeah, I did find a Wally World I can go in without a mask. That's interesting. I don't really like Wally World for sure, but I was just having a hard time finding a few things I kind of needed. Maybe we should make a censorship internet then. There you go. Can't let the humans use 5G to get into your mind when you're an alien. I know. That's what his concern is. Roger back there has told me about those concerns.
I said censorship. I meant anti-censorship internet. Like, we just need a whole new internet.
Okay. For some reason, I lost my left audio channel.
Fork the
left
internet.
Audio working for everyone else? Or is it just me?
Is it time to fork the internet?
Yeah, come up with something other than HTTP.
Is the internet open source?
Yeah, there are some alternatives.
There's ways you can do that.
Gopher.
Yeah, there you go. Gopher, that's what I was thinking of.
You can set up your own Wi-Fi and everything and have it like span the city if you wanted to. There are ways. Linus Tech Tips did. As bad as resources that is, don't go there. Your brain will melt.
MeWe.
Yeah,
Quantum Alpha. It looks like you're over in MeWe now. Apparently, my headphones just died on my right audio channel. That's
you can get it for miles.
Oh well, I'll deal with not having right audio channel. So we wanted to talk today about Foss software and censorship, and this is the primary thing. So this will be our launching point discussion. Because thinking about how everything is going, everything is becoming software as a service, including the operating systems themselves. Is it going to be feasibly possible that Microsoft might be like, hey, you seem to say things we tend to disagree with, and therefore we're pulling your computer's license? And would it be possible for them and or likely for them to pull your ability to use your main computer? What do you guys think?
I think it's very possible. They may have some really good arguments. Number one would be they're awful EULA. Number two, most of the people did not pay for Windows. They got it free through one of the situations that exist. Like either you had Windows 7 with a key and you were able to update it. You got it free in the beginning when it was offered free. You have Windows 8 in your machine and you use the hardware will automatically take Windows 10 and activate it. Or you bought a machine with 10 already installed in it. That just leaves a wee bit of little people that paid the $200 for the Pro version.
Mm-hmm.
So...
But what I'm meaning is whether or not you bought it or not, there's terms of service of using the software. And is it possible for them to say, we don't like you, you're not allowed to use that software?
Well, okay, if it's an individual person, they could probably easily pull it off. If it's a big corporation where you got like 50 computers in the building all on Windows 10, that could be a major court battle.
I think I see what you're saying though, Tom, and I know we don't want to go like into the political spectrum, but regardless of, I mean, we're all kind of dancing around what happened with Twitter this week and all the social media, and then Parler being taken down by Amazon and Apple and Google and all that jazz. So staying away from whether you think President Trump was inciting violence or not, or whether you agree with him or not is irrelevant. The point is, things were said that, depending on where you stand, you think it's incitement or it's not. But it's purely subjective.
So,
well, it's purely subjective is what it is. And so the real argument here is we're coming down to, and this has not been very well legally defined, is social media something like Twitter that's available for everyone to use, and that is it the public square? And if so,
bullshit.
Are the corporations the arbiters of the public square? Like, do they have the right to censor or moderate what you do and do not say? So that's really the crux of this. And based on that, now we're getting into what Dan was saying, is that Windows is now
same applies to all of them.
Yeah, well, of course, but I'm using Twitter because that's the one that's in the crosshairs right now. It can apply to anything. But to go into Windows 10, it's
but
software.
How far do you go before it's considered infringement on your freedom of speech?
Well, that's just it. Is that from their
Where
perspective?
does that line move on this?
Well, there's a
freedom
problem.
of speech.
There's a problem, though, Dan.
That
is that the freedom of speech laid out in the Constitution is a freedom of speech that the government cannot come and shut you down. So if Twitter were to be nationalized and become an agent of the government, then that would qualify under free speech. But as a private corporation, the argument goes, well, they're a private corporation. They can do what they want. Well, rightly
contract.
so, not really, though, because as a private corporation, we now see that a banker with certain religious, or a baker with certain religious views cannot make a cake for somebody they tend to disagree with. All right. And so I can't, running a business, I can't pull in a bunch of job applications and say, I'm not going to hire you because you're black. There's laws against that. Okay. And anybody who would do that, fail to hire somebody exclusively based on their race, is kind of crazy. But we have to understand crazy is where we live, because the vice president elect right now was put into that position exclusively because of race and gender, which is what we're talking about. And so it's one thing Twitter, but I don't really want to talk about the Twitter part. What if Windows comes down and says, we disagree with something you said on Twitter or on YouTube or on Gab, or, you even have a BitChute account. We're going to prevent you from using the license because we're going to silence you. How far are we from that actually happening?
Well, I was about to say, I think the thought process I had was it's probably going to start in some place where it's like, I'm going to use the term more authoritarian of a nation, something that's smaller, maybe a more theocratic country. Like, there's nations in the world where you can't, write erotic novels because it's destructive to the fabric of society. So what if, you're typing away an erotic novel on your Windows 10 computer, and that data gets transmitted back to the local government, whatever your nation's government is, and they go, oh, look, Johnny's over there writing things he shouldn't be writing. That's against what our government allows. And so now what? Now you're going to be arrested.
On the door.
Yeah.
Now does the government gulag Johnny, or does Windows come down and say, Johnny, you can't write that. We're going to pull your Windows license for hate?
Well, in other countries outside the U.S. and outside of Western democracies, there's a tighter integration between the government entities and the corporations. The governments can basically pull the local corporate overlords, the presidents and the local CEOs and that kind of thing, and say, you're going to make this happen, or we're going to start finding you. So it's kind of like it's like being an accomplice to a crime. If you don't tell us what your people are doing with your software, then you're a part of the problem.
I find it very hard for
Microsoft
to enforce this completely. Because if they go in and disable your Windows and yank your license. If you got ISO with Windows on it, you're just going to shove it back in the machine and reload it until they come around again.
And that's part of the problem they're facing. At what point in time? Oh, we just everything has to be activated now. Right now, as we are recording,
you don't have to activate Windows 10
exactly
to do much with it.
Right now, Windows 10, you don't have to actually activate it. A failure to activate it just means you can't change the settings and the default. So you can download Windows ISO, you can install it on a computer, you can never activate it, you can use it just like Windows. It won't necessarily nag you, you just can't change any of the settings, and of course they've turned everything full on. But how far are we from them toggling that? Let's move from Windows, Microsoft, and look at Apple, because we see Apple having services like an App Store. They have services like podcasts, and we have seen them banning certain voices from those services. Is it that much bigger of a step to ban their computer from functioning as well? Or am I just too far out?
Well, they've already done some banning. Parler, which is supposed to be something like Twitter, they actually will not allow it to be in their app store anymore. You cannot put it on your iPhone.
Yeah, Google.
Well, they did actually. There's been a little bit of an update on that. Apple has said to Parler they will reallow Parler on the App Store if Parler moderates the content that their users are posting.
They were moderating.
It kind of defeats the purpose of it.
I'm just telling you what Apple said. I'm not. I don't use Parler. I don't know what the.
Yeah, there's. They were kicked off of Amazon's AWS servers, and then they sued Amazon. And Amazon says, "Well, you had this big backlog." And they're like, "Well, Twitter's got 10 times larger of a backlog." You know, there's people actively calling for death of certain people on Twitter. Nobody's saying anything about that, and the people are still there. They're still accounted. And when you flag those accounts, they're special privileged accounts. When you flag those accounts, nothing ever happens to them. But they use that for the same excuse to kick Parler off. And the problem, like, I think it was it Dave Rubin, I think, the other day, he said, yeah, I know they moderate things. I said something, and they took it down. They moderated my comment. So the question is, do they have enough moderators to do that? Do they just need to bring on more moderators? And what's the threshold level? Because like I said, you can find just as bad stuff on Twitter. You can find just as bad stuff on Facebook. I mean, is it lost on us that Facebook moderators actually have to retire due to PTSD? Okay. Obviously, this is not an issue, a solo problem with Parler.
Yeah, it's involved with all of them. And then they go in front of Congress and put on this big show, and and Zuckerberg sits there in front of a committee and I didn't know about that, and blah, 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 blah,
I'm sorry. It was my fault.
And then you don't hear nothing more about the situation. Like,
if I have to hear, is it Rand Paul and or Ted Cruz yelling at Zuckerberg one more time with like, yeah, go. It's like, okay, no, would you shut up and just do something? Stop yelling at him through a stupid computer screen and haul him into jail and throw him in a federal gulag for a while. Maybe we'll clean up Facebook if that were to occur.
Exactly.
They do a lot of that, and nothing ever comes of it.
And I know, and that's why I'm frustrated. That's why I am with no political party. I am just as pissed off at the Republicans as I am the Democrats. They're all screwed up.
Yep. Same.
So, what do we do? I'm not exactly saying, hey, let's go be anarchists. I kind of like law and order, but I'll tell you, in my local town, if the police don't stop investigating gyms and grocery stores that are like, you can't come in here without a mask, then I might have to join BLM and start screaming F the police, because that's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of problem. BLM I don't agree with. It's the wrong way about it. But absolutely, there are some deep-seated problems in police departments, some of which are racism and others which are just a-holes with a badge who have no business with a badge and don't know or understand the law or the Constitution and will just do whatever they're told, whether it's constitutional or not.
Yeah. Turning it back to the Foss software, this is where my point. Should we preemptively understand a little bit more about Foss software so that we are not in the crosshairs of being kicked off. I mean, maybe my tinfoil hat's on a little bit too tight if I'm thinking we might see, Windows or Apple kick people off. Maybe I am barking up the wrong tree there. It's just a thought that it came to me today because they're already software as a service. They already have the convoluted terms of service. At what point in time do they stop and say, no, you can't use our operating system anymore? Now
there's an answer to all of this.
Yeah. So of course, if you saw the web the web browser video this week, I highlighted this article from Mozilla. When a open source software platform and this is I believe the CEO of it comes out, the article title is "We Need More Than Deplatforming." So he's actively talking about kicking people off of the services.
How do you kick somebody off a web browser?
Yeah. Well, somebody...
You just send their web browser an update and it dilutes itself?
I guess. Now, somebody actually sent me another article here on the comments. I didn't pull that one up here, but it was like a study. Now, what's this going to look like? Is Mozilla actually going to do something? Somebody else said, very rightly so in the comments, I don't care what their views are as long as they don't mess with the software. I'm behind that. There's people in different open source projects that I would radically disagree with on political views, but they keep their political views out of their software and I don't care. So as long as these political views stay out of Firefox, okay-ish. But as soon as we start cramming those in, now we're starting to see some interesting things. So we already know that Firefox does a lot of data collection, which you can turn off. We already know they do studies and experiments. What if
is Mozilla a U.S. company?
I
think so. I think they're in California. I think
it does sound about right.
Yeah, I think we need to pinpoint where a lot of these Linux companies are from, because we know Mint is from Ireland or something like that. Linux is all over the planet, and
it looks like Mozilla is as well. We got some Japan, we got some China, 3 European offices. It looks like 2 Canadian offices and 2 United States offices.
It come to find out, Ubuntu is from an island that's between Britain and Scotland out in the ocean.
Yeah. So, what do we do to battle the potentials of censorship? I think it was Luke Smith had an excellent video on this the other day. You talked about utilizing some of the decentralized social media things. So Mastodon is deplatformed. Now, of course, the Mastodon creators themselves are a little crazy.
Invisible hand competition. I'll be right back.
All right. And so those guys are a little on the nutsoid side, but then, but you can get federated accounts for all over the place. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Gab will federate with Mastodon, if I'm not mistaken. So looking at the different federated accounts is one really good way to prevent that form of censorship. Learning, of course, how to use various open source applications is also a very good thing to do, because we can use systems that are offline that they couldn't trigger a kill code. That's my thought.
I think that's ultimately going to have to be the way it goes. I mean, for us as individuals, there's, assuming it does in fact get that dystopian, which, I mean, we're talking at this point, I think we're just talking about hypotheticals.
Yeah. I have not heard of anybody being banned from their operating system.
Right.
But I see that coming down the pipeline pretty soon.
I don't know about soon, but I could imagine a world where it's a reality. Just look at something like North Korea, and China has their own versions of some programs that will monitor what you're doing, and then they'll just come take you offline. So it's kind of
they're going to chisel at it a little piece at a time.
Yeah, which is why in my original hypothesis, I said this is going to start someplace that's a small country that's not a Western democracy.
And this was explained earlier today when I was watching TV about the Second Amendment with the guns. They're going to start banning certain guns. They're even talking about taxing certain guns that you have.
They've already
and they're going to chew on it a little piece at a time until one day you wake up and find out you can't have them.
Well, that's already happening. For all the people that
they've
were
already
like
been seizing guns.
Yeah, for the people that are all been like, yeah, pro-Trump, pro-gun. I'm sorry, but Trump passed a lot of regulation that made a lot of guns illegal. That was Trump administration stuff, and that's bad. You know, leave me and my firearms alone. You know, you don't want my firearms and doing bad stuff. Then stay out of my house. Okay.
Like I told you a long time ago, Tom, Trump has been a mixed bag for me. There's certain things that I totally agree with, like America First, and then even though it's going to hurt, in the up front, we're going to be better in the long run. I feel like, and there are things that I totally disagree with.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, Trump was horrible on the tech end, completely horrible on the tech end. He was horrible on, he helped create some of the corporatocracy, although a lot of it was really already here. But at the same time, there's a lot of things he did that were just amazingly good as well. So that's why, absolutely. For me, I'd rather him than someone else. But for now, just because he's not a politician, he's a businessman, and that's what we need. Right. Original country wasn't career politicians. Like every office in the land should have term limits and very small term limits, because nobody was ever meant to be a full-time politician. That should not be your
much
career.
Power.
You do
too much stroke. When you're in it that long, you start to pick.
Well, no, I mean the purpose was to do politics to better the world for everybody, to not be a focus, not be a job.
Represent
and some
the people.
Some people say that the term limits wouldn't help. They would, because sure, you'd get them out and more corrupt people would come back in. I hear that, but if it's a constant revolving door like that, then you don't have time for the corruption to establish as deep. And that's the point.
Yeah, it's and the math don't add up either. Say we give a politician $100,000 or $120,000 a year for his salary. But this guy winds up after 5 or 6 years with $500 million or more in his bank account.
So Not Gary says on Discord,
it's a hard job.
You're banned for Windows 10 from making inappropriate anime. I'm thinking that's like more of a joke thing he's saying there. But we do remember cases that right now under the Windows 10 terms of service, if they find inappropriate things in your computer, they will delete them. Go figure that one out.
It gets to a point with the social credit score and everything coming into play. China has had this for a very long time, and Tom has done excellent videos on it. America is really beginning to start to lead in that direction, and you're going to start to see some services in like some banks and financial places offer benefits. Well, there already is a bank that does this. There's a bank called Aspiration Bank that it's a bank that kind of works like that on the social credit score. Mm-hmm. But as you start to take that and you pair, this is all by design. When you have the social credit score come into play, it's going to get easier and easier for the government to take more and more control. Corporations to see more in everything of what you do, and it's going to be like Tech Haberdashery said, where you get a knock on the door because you're writing a novel that is not PC, that is a anti-government, like Tom's recent novel Synaptergy, or correct me if I said it wrong. But you're going to get to a point where, like, it's just you're not going to be able to have any freedoms. You're not going to be able to do anything without the government or Big Brother checking up on you. And if you misbehave, God forbid, you do something that is actually good and valued in the Christian religion, and it's frowned upon, and you're going to suffer consequences. You're not going to be able to get, you're not going to be able to take on a house mortgage because you're a Christian. It gets really dangerous.
I think in the long run, if they start trying to implement this, you're going to see more and more crazies come out of the wall.
Well, this worries me with AMD. I watched AMD's live stream. What was it, yesterday? And they said one of the things that just kind of flashed on screen real quick was their embedded. They've got a new security chip that they're embedding, like how Apple's like had like the T2 chips and the T1 chips in their Macs and the iPhones for a long time. Now AMD is developing their own security chip that you can integrate into the CPU. So it's like at some point we have to get past Foss software. We have to go to Foss hardware as well. And I think that's going to be a much bigger hurdle because Foss hardware development is unfortunately much further behind.
Yeah, you're gonna see old machines be more expensive than brand new ones.
Well, it's kind of like your cars, I'd rather take an older car rather than a new one,
I can't figure out how to drive a new car. There's so much junk in the dashboard.
Any creature morph says, I am a Karen. How am I a Karen? Okay.
Which thing do I push to start the engine?
Yeah.
Press that button. The government's going to suck up all the data, your mileage, your freaking speedometer.
Yeah, they're going to be telling you like,
your insurance company telling you drove too much.
Yeah, your CO2 emissions are too high, comrade. We got to take you out.
Yeah, exactly. That
take off the road. I mean,
yeah,
take you out.
That's perfect.
Hey,
well,
Rick,
you can't roll this vehicle today. We know you have work, but you're not working today because
yeah, you're not working today. You had a bad tweet yesterday. You're in the gulag for a day.
I mean, y'all probably think some of y'all probably think we're joking, but you guys that have been here a long time know that this is the direction we're headed. Yeah, and if something don't change,
I don't want to
stand up and fight.
I don't want to call out any particular countries, but there are countries in the world where you can be arrested for wearing a bikini at a beach and then posting those pictures to Instagram. And I don't want to say who it is, but
it is what it is.
It's not that far fetched.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we start moving into this crazy world where anybody and everybody can kick you off of anything. This is the time it makes sense to learn a new operating system, even if you're not using it full time.
Man,
at least know how to use it so you can jump on in. Rick showed up. How's it going, Rick?
Hey, Rick.
I strongly advise everybody have a copy of Tor loaded on their machine as well.
Yeah.
Learn how to use it.
If only for research alone, just to keep in the know stuff.
I want to do it already. It's I've had a wicked crazy week, and I'm doing backups this week, so it's just like as soon as I finish the backups, I'm going to try and start doing some Unix tutorials again. Now that you guys funded the support of picking up a capture card, we can actually install Unix on a real machine and get good stuff rather than pointing a camera at a monitor, which was horrible. So we'll get some Unix stuff online soon here.
I'm
Rick,
sorry
how's it going?
for that wire. It's cheap. I got to replace it. It's crackling.
Rick jumped out. He'll be back, I guess. All right. All right.
Unix.
Let's see. Quote unquote.
I think
countries.
I think people got to be willing to kind of get away from some of this proprietary stuff as much as possible, and go to a different company if you're not happy with. If they ban your neighbor, then they'll ban you.
And so here's a question: do we jump off, or do we let him just ban us? There's a fun question. My approach is I'm going to chill over here, and I'm going to go down with the ship. I'm going to make you kick me off, but I'm going to be prepared. So that's the case.
I'm the different way. I believe in the free enterprise, so I'll play by your rules up until the point where I can't create content or do whatever I'm doing without violating your rules reasonably. Then I go, and then I start to diversify elsewhere until I can completely get off.
But we're not talking about rules, though. Okay, name me a single rule that has been violated in any of these bannings this last week. It's just nebulous violations of our terms of service.
Just make up crap, yeah.
And
they make up crap, and the whole world believes this is true. And it's sad. It's so sick. It's sick and twisted. You can sit there and lie. And the whole world think I feel like everybody lives in an alternative reality. I'll shut up and let you talk.
Yeah.
It does feel like a genuine nightmare. It's like you rather stay in bed and dream about what you were dreaming about than get out of bed and face what's really real.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it rides my nerves.
It does mine too. Some days I get downright depressed. I try and stay away from the news because it's all bad.
Yeah.
Our fact checkers have determined that is not 100% correct. Yeah.
What
And
is
then
it?
what?
Yeah. So the thing we can do, the best thing we can do is we can learn other operating systems, we can learn other software packages, and we can become independent from some of these. There's a video, I'm only about halfway through watching it. I just saw it come up on the lead today, from Rob Braxman Tech. If you guys have not watched Rob Braxton's Tech, he did one called Angry at Big Tech. Wait, the other shoe has not dropped. Worse things are coming. Have a look at that video if you have not seen it yet. I'm only about halfway through, but he's got some great truth bombs in there. Really talking about what he has been doing for a long time is simply just getting people off of the dependence on the big companies. And that's what this channel has always been about. I think I got a comment from somebody on one of my New Year's video again. It's like, there's so much privacy stuff on this channel now. Well, this channel was started with privacy. I didn't start this channel. I can't possibly compete with the Linux geeks out there. You guys who've grown up on Linux, you guys probably know more than I do. I came to Linux because it was freedom. It was privacy. It was choice. That's what this channel is about. It's freedom and privacy and choice. And that means I show you a lot of Linux, but I also show you a lot of privacy related stuff and have good thought-provoking things to get you thinking as well. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What's your advice for the upcoming censored world?
I got off of the Windows just because I seen something like this percolating in the future with their EULA, and they're going to say they can do this, and that, and we're gonna be in your house no matter what. So that didn't fly with me.
The cloud and running your own home servers. If you're in business, again, this is a lot of my advice comes from a business perspective, and I feel like sometimes I'll leave the regular normal crowd out, but just try to run things locally as much as possible, or try to just get off of being so. The whole society is dependent on internet infrastructure to a point where, and stuff could go down at the drop of a hat, and it's so insecure when you really think about it, and so fragile. But to
I'm
just
really
not
afraid
be
that
so dependent on these companies.
in the future that they're going to bake it into the hardware that the powers that be are going to be able to probe around your machine whether you like it or not.
Well, look at the IME. Did it not do some nefarious stuff? I know it blocked Linux there for a while, supposedly blocked Linux. I never had that issue, but of course I didn't have the newer Intel chips.
Yeah. One of the good things, Carbon Programmer says, showed a normie friend how to use LibreOffice instead of Google Drive. That's a good thing. In fact, I remember this is though how bad our education is becoming. One of the books that I wrote was authored with the kid was in high school at the time we were writing it, and I wanted to give him that type of experience, and so we're writing it on LibreOffice, and he's like, "Did you save your document?" He's like, "What do you mean?" Yeah, you have to push the save button because they're so trained in just using Google Docs and stuff. Well, right now, Nextcloud actually has a built-in app that you can install a micro code server directly on Nextcloud with an app. So it's infinitely easier to run your Google Docs replacement using LibreOffice on Nextcloud. So that's definitely something, if you do need to have some type of cloud function, that is actually a good way to do it.
At least keep everything on your LAN and then just connect through like a secure VPN. That's one good way to do stuff.
I have never liked cloud services, and I never will.
Yeah, I can't say I'm a huge fan. Kind of crazy. There's one. I'm testing out one of the cloud accounting services on a local web server. So basically, I spun up a cloud service on a local web server. Go figure that one out. So you can't access it from the internet, but I can access it from any computer when my server is turned on. So
Yeah.
all right. Anything
That's
else
really
we
smart,
wanna
Tom.
mention? I guess here's one other thing. We were trying to find the exact name of this, but this is a license that I've heard coming down the pipeline. It's vaguely connected with the contributor covenant code of conducts. And so, of course, we get some of those which are very kind of very left in their interpretation, just in their wording and in their language, and which opens themselves up to a lot of misuse and misinterpretation. But now there's actually software licenses coming down. So like, you could release your code, and instead of doing a basic GPL license, they could release under the code saying, well, you can use this as long as you're not using it for example, like for a religious blog. Sure, you can use our BB forum stuff, PHP BB forum code, but you couldn't use it for anything discussing religious stuff. That would be against our code. So in other words, they could create it in the quote unquote open source sense, release the source code, but then forbid people who they disagree with from using it. What are your thoughts on that type of code of conduct?
It's still kind of frightening. I don't know how I really feel about that.
I mean, it's well, I say I don't. Are we talking about? I know that I think what we're talking about is a derivative of contributor covenant.
It's like a contributor covenant meets GPL.
Yeah,
I've seen it. We were trying to find the name of it before the stream started, and we couldn't find it specifically, but it does exist. It's out there.
Yeah, well, I say any kind of derivative of contributor covenant makes me concerned, because I'm reading their FAQ, their frequently asked questions, and it says, what should I do if I've been accused of violating the code of conduct? And there's a couple sentences, and then they get to this point where they say, work to understand any damage you may have caused and examine how your intentions may have inadvertently caused harm. So like in the frequently asked questions, your intentions are already painted in a negative light. It's how do we prove intentions here? Like this is verbiage out of the Soviet Union. It's like, oh, comrade, like your intentions are those of not of the is it the proletariat were the bad guys, right? So like the rich and the powerful. So
are you trying to say your intentions versus your act on them?
Well, here's
they're trying to
having intentions and acting on them are two different things.
Actions, but they will. This kind of thing tries to pull your intentions out of your actions, or they try to attribute intentions to your actions.
That's like saying you're convicted before you even do the crime.
Correct.
Exactly. They're judging you automatically.
You are prejudged as guilty, and you must prove yourself innocent.
Well, they're prejudging you based on their own interpretation of what your action might have been.
And they don't even know.
And that's a problem, is rather than approaching it from, which is hilarious because, hey, I'm the religious nut here. I'm supposed to approach the world saying that everybody is a sinner at heart, okay? But I want to approach things in social interactions by saying, let's assume the best of intentions were meant and use that as a springboard to discuss any possible offense. Rather than approaching to say, well, your skin tone is a certain thing or religion is a certain thing, so you automatically are a bad person. In fact, there's a lawsuit, I think it might be in Kansas of all places, on critical race theory right now. They literally suspended this kid because he would not go into class and say, I am racist because I'm white. And the real funny factor is that the kid's not white, he's biracial. He just identifies as white, like his mother is Hispanic and his father is white, but he looks whiter than he looks Hispanic, so he says, I'm a white guy. But in critical race theory, if you're white, you are intrinsically evil. And so this is being forced in a school system, and I think it might be a private school. I can't remember what type of school, but they're approaching it from that standpoint, saying you are automatically racist because you're white.
That would piss me off so bad.
That's insane.
I'm sorry.
That's
that
insane.
would really.
And so there's a big court case on that going right on. But that's what that contributor covenant is it's assuming the worst of you, not the best of you. And like I said, I'm the religious nut. I'm the one who's supposed to come to the table saying everybody's a sinner at heart. Okay. So
yeah, I mean we're as a Christian, we unfortunately it doesn't always. Not everybody's willing to do that as a Christian. It's kind of sad. Christians can prejudge too, but that's, it's a problem in our faith that, I mean, everybody makes a mistake and there should be a path to redemption. I feel like even legally in licenses. Like
a women, brother. A women.
I'm such a troll, aren't I? Gotta check the chat for that one.
I'm lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's the thing, right? I mean, it's our world's becoming backwards, and that's the thing, and that's why I thought it was important to talk about Foss software today, because censorship is coming, whether we like it or not. Are we on the free and open source platforms? Are we on the free and open source software? Are we going to be able to continue communicating and or contributing and or whatever when we are thrown into the gulag for our thoughts? And that's I think whatever happened to coming together and accepting a diversity of opinions. Well,
Yeah. It's just not a good thing to do, but again, if they want to do that license as a libertarian, there's nothing stopping you. Do what you want to do, but that's not the type of license I particularly care to, enter into. I'll just enter into a different license. I like the GPL. So the GPL has worked for years.
How much
reasonable.
longer will Foss last? That's a good question from Carbon Programmer in the chat. How much longer will Foss last?
I think it will last so long as there's a demand for it until people fall asleep.
Unless
I think they'll chisel away at it over time.
Yeah.
Until it's not there anymore.
Yeah, it'll be a slow roll. It won't be anything major fast.
See, if somebody grabbed the carpet and ripped it out from underneath your feet, you'd hit the floor immediately. But if somebody jerked it just a little bit, you'd think there's just an earthquake or something going on. You wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah,
in the box.
I guess one of the advantages of free and open source and with this is that it's possible to maintain it by, I can't agree to your license going forward, so we're going to fork it at this point in time and do our own thing with our own license. So,
yeah,
that's kind of the point there. So, we're coming up on the 8 o'clock mark, so I think now would be a time to wrap up. We're going to talk about stuff on this general trend from a religious point of view in the next show, which is going to be in 1 hour on my Christian channel. I will go ahead and find the link for that so you guys can have that if you're interested in continuing there. I'm going to talk a little bit more about alt tech over there, though, as well. And so if you're interested in that. So, Dan, give us your final thoughts on Foss software in the censorship world.
Like it or not, that's the direction that this is all going into. I would recommend to folks just stop using the Twitter and the Facebook. Use something like Mastodon or some other open source thing if you have to.
I will note that the
definitely make an exit plan for Windows. I mean, if you're using Windows, fine, you got to use it, but have a backup plan in case they want to toy with you with that. But
I agree with that.
Other than that, I want to go climb back under the covers and forget about today.
All right, Yates Networks, give us your final words.
Give me liberty or give me death.
All right, those are good final words. Although you might have just sealed death for yourself, just saying. Okay.
Fair enough.
Give me your final thoughts, Ted.
Yates, hopefully those are not, in fact, your actual final words. I mean, when the time comes, will that how it'll be for you? Like,
No, he will say, I have
Just
but
in
one
liberty or
regret
death,
that I
yeah,
only have
pretty
one
much.
life to give for my country. That's what he's going to say.
the doctors are going to be holding him down in the hospital bed. And he's going to be like, "Give me liberty or death." I mean, I think I've made my point relatively clear tonight, which is, we have no option but to be individuals that stand up to the powers of tyranny, regardless of what form they take. Yeah. And this is going to be a slow burn that starts elsewhere and comes westward. I don't think it's going to start in the West. It has in some ways, but I think the whole like banning you from your OS or banning you from your computer kind of thing, I think that's going to start elsewhere and more creep this way. And it's going to do it under the guise of justice and for the betterment of everyone. And I'm just, still pro Foss. I think that, every opportunity you should use anything that's Foss software. And even on a proprietary system like Mac OS or Windows, you should still use, LibreOffice or use an open source browser that's, apolitical. I personally, I like WaterFox quite a lot, but as Tom talked about, there's LibreWolf as well that's out there. That's not on Windows, but it's out there.
So, and WaterFox has been compromised. So
yeah, it's on the blacklist.
It is officially owned by System One now. It's not like System One made an investment in Start Page, but they don't control Start Page. But they actually bought WaterFox.
Well, is there anything with System One that we should be concerned about?
Yes, they collect
privacy
everything.
Policy is worse than Google, Microsoft, and Facebook combined.
Wow.
They actually have in their privacy policy, we will purchase more data about you to supplement our ad profile on you. That is actually in their privacy policy.
Well, then, ladies and gentlemen, this is why you have open conversations as well, so you can learn things.
I'm going to make
you can WaterFox right now.
I'm going to make if you do decide to use LibreWolf, you're going to have some trouble with YouTube if you're using dark theme and the autoplay next. When you restart it, it's going to lose all them settings. It's going to go back to autoplay, and it's going to go back to the white theme. You actually have to go into the settings, and where the cookies are, you're going to have to uncheck or check the box not to delete the cookies when you close your browser, because there's a cookie in there that makes all that stuff work and holds it. If you allow the program to delete the cookie when you shut down LibreWolf, then you're going to lose your dark theme and you're going to lose your auto on switch. It's going to go back to auto on. So just to warn you, if you're going to tinker with that, because it took me a couple of days to figure it out and some deep reading on the internet.
Yeah.
To
the other one to try out too.
By the way, Tom, I really like the new graphics you stuffed onto your channel. They look really great.
Well, thank you. Also, I want to point out, have a look at ungoogled Chromium as well. See if that works for you also. But yeah, I did spend quite a bit of time on the graphics over the holiday break. That was about 5 or 6 movies worth to get all the graphics done. So we built a new studio, we put in new graphics, and I'm still doing a few little changes here and there. But I think I do need to move my photo.
It looks sweet.
Yeah, I can change my background light too. I rotate this one. So, where's my light?
You're keeping a step ahead of the pros.
There we'll go. We'll wrap up on green. That's bright green though. Let me turn it down a bit. There we are. It's a little nicer. But anyway, yeah, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up right here for now. And let's see if there's any other comments I need to hit with right now. I think that's pretty good for now. All right, guys. Well, I dropped the link for the Christian channel tonight. We'll be talking more about alt tech type stuff there, and so we'll get a chance to talk about that. So if you want to hear about the appropriate thoughts for Christians moving forward in the silence world, we'll go ahead and talk about that over there. Let's see. Well, Ice, Peppermint, and Mint just dedicating a dangerous site there. What do you mean? Dedicating a dangerous site there. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. Oh, well. We'll wrap this one up here for now. Thanks for hanging out, everybody, and we will see you in the next video tomorrow. Weekly News Roundup.